Basically, there are two ways to pronounce Latin: classical and ecclesiastical. Classical pronunciation was used by the Romans up until about 300 AD, and ecclesiastical Latin was used by the Catholic Church and many other groups from the 4th century on. Reconstructed classical is more popular among modern scholars and the new growing community around the world who are learning Latin today. It is believed that this is how the Romans spoke, from about the 1st century BC until about the 3rd century AD.
Magister, how could anyone know this?
Magister, male teacher. Magistra, female teacher. We know through many solid writings of exacting Roman grammarians and writers that classical Latin pronunciation was mostly used from around 100 BC to around 300 AD. Don't quote me, but I personally believe it must have been used for hundreds of years before then, but we have the most solid written evidence from 100 BC. And we know how it probably sounded from many writings.
Like anyone can even know that.
For instance, from the writings of Aulus Persius Flaccus, we know that they called the letter R the dog's letter, because it is rolled like a growling dog. In Latin, that's called canina littera. And this period is considered the golden era of Latin literature, so there is a lot of carefully preserved literature from that time. And that is how we can have such a firm idea of how the Romans probably spoke.
Magister, how does classical pronunciation sound?
So the main things to remember are, there's no V sound. It's a W, like the English letter W. Victoria, not Victoria. C's are always hard, like a K, as in caput, chichero. G's are always hard, like G, never J. Gaudium, agit, gemma. Diphthongs, which are the combination of two vowels, for example, AE, OE, EU, are pronounced in specific ways. In classical Latin pronunciation, this diphthong, AE, is pronounced I, like in the English words I, or my. Aitas. Caelum. Caesar. Caesar. Now you can impress people at parties with the correct Roman pronunciation of this word. Don't do that. This diphthong, AU, is pronounced au. Audire. In classical Roman pronunciation, this diphthong is pronounced like the English word oil, or the British oi. Coipi. Oedipus. Now you can impress people at parties with the correct Roman pronunciation. There are more subtle points, but these are the main guidelines to know about classical pronunciation for now. U or V is W or U. C is always K. G is always G. Diphthongs I, OW, OI, O. In classical pronunciation, everything is pretty much pronounced the way it's written. That's why it's easier.
Vowels. The letter ah is always pronounced ah, as in father, or ah. The letter A is pronounced as in pet when it's short, and when it's long, as in the English word they. The letter E is often pronounced E. When it is long, it is pronounced E, as in the English words see, me, tea. When it is short, it is pronounced I, like in English, as in the words it or sit. The letter O is pronounced O, similar but not exactly as in the English word so or O. If you listen to how this letter is pronounced in Spanish and Italian, it's similar in Latin. The letter U, when it is a vowel, oo, as in the English words to or who. Ugreika is a vowel, and it's pronounced like the German U umlaut. U. Latin word examples are peristylum, Syria. And almost all of the consonants sound the same as they do in English. One last thing. Digraphs are two letters put together to make one sound, like these. In Latin, these are simply aspirated and sound pretty much the way they're written, with a small H sound, or said with a light breath following. T, p, k, t, p, k. In English, we may not be aware of it, but we aspirate most of our P's, T's, and K sounds. Some examples are top, pot, cat, t, p, k.
And as I said before, for simplicity's sake, we'll be using classical pronunciation throughout this course. Personally, I prefer the classical pronunciation. It just sounds stronger or more pure in a way.